Hey, what's up, guys? Back with a 0 hour. Tim Lloyd joined by Jeff Hobbs. And today we got Justin Brown from Gamma USA joining us. Jeff, we're going to be discussing the Gamma Youth Nationals tournament. Justin's bringing over to our neck of the woods, Nashville, Tennessee. It's going down November 3rd through the 6th. Competition, of course, the 4th through the 6th. And yeah, we're going to be out there to take it all in, man. Give a little assistance with the stream and check out some of this action. Hopefully, some familiar faces we've seen in our cage will be making their way out there for the Nationals. Jeff, I'm excited for it.
Yeah, me too, man. At first, working in the school system, I like breaks away from kids. So I, wasn't sure, the first time I got involved with one of these Gamma events, how I was going to like it, man. I ended up falling in love with it. It's so fun watching these kids, just whether, they're specifically jujitsu or whether they're specific, just watching them hone in on their craft and strive to be better at it. And then those who, at such a young age already know I want to be an MMA fighter. I want to do what these other guys are doing. It's so cool to watch them compete, and it's absolutely surprising the skill level of some of these kids already at these ages. So I am pumped. I kind of fell in love with it the first time that we got to experience. So I'm definitely excited to see it on a much bigger scale.
Justin, let's dive into it, my man. First off, let's set the table a little bit for those that are unfamiliar with what is happening exactly. What is the Gamma Youth National Tournament? What does it entail? And what can fans expect to see at this tournament coming up in November?
Yeah, absolutely. So let me correct it first. This is actually Worlds. Nationals was done in Milwaukee.
Okay, yes, it's Worlds. Okay.
Yeah. So what happened was on the international level, this was actually supposed to take place overseas, but because of COVID and other restrictions, the Youth Worlds was technically canceled. So what we did in the USA, we said, hey, we've held nationals, youth nationals 2 years in a row. Our kids have nowhere to go. I don't want to do it for a third year in a row, do nationals and then put all this money and time into training and competing, and we have nothing for our team to do. So I just offered to step up and host an event and invite all 120 national federations here to compete. And we've got several that are still working on visas, but they will be international recognition here. So technically is Worlds, but we're calling it the International Championships because there's other formats for specifically for Gamma Worlds. But yeah, this is exciting. It's going to be in Nashville, Tennessee in the USA for the first time. And it's a huge event. We're really fortunate to have it here in the USA and hopefully within driving distance from a lot of really top talent. We've got kids coming in from Hawaii, Florida, California, Missouri already registered, the Northwest. We got people from New York. This is going to be a very, very well-attended event.
So we did a small tournament at one of our Chattanooga events a few months back, and that was a lot of fun. I think that it definitely planted the seed with a lot of the local teams as to what this is. I think there's a little bit of a stigma when you first hear youth MMA that may kind of turn people off. But I think once they were able to kind of see how this works, see how it runs, it made a lot of new fans. If you would explain kind of the rule set to the people out there, how this differs from typical MMA,
Sure.
Yet still manages to kind of tie all the things together to a degree,
Yeah, so what we do is we follow the amateur rule set as closely as possible as we can for the youth. What we've done is taken out just a few rules. We don't allow head strikes of any kind, so we don't want to have any kids building up any sort of head trauma or CTE symptoms or concussions. So we've taken that out completely. Because there's so much for them to do in MMA, we can do that and still have a good, fun competition. We don't allow any lower body submissions of any kind, and we don't allow straight neck guillotines. You got to have an army guillotine. That's your biggest three things that aren't allowed for youth. And the younger brackets, when they're 11 and under, they can't do any knees of any kind or any flying submissions. But otherwise, it's full amateur MMA as closely as possible. We do 3 rounds. They'll have the 1-minute breaks. They'll have the full thing to be able to walk out to the mats and cage, and they can really get the feel of what MMA is going to be like.
So, with this being, as you corrected, it's a world competition. How is there a structure to this as far as like like a team, like a national tally as far as
Yeah.
Team USA has X amount of points, so that there's like
Right.
could there be like a team champion, or is it all individual and you just kind of you enter your bracket and it doesn't really matter what country you're from?
Technically, yes. There would normally be in the World Championships a team rating system. So we would normally only be able to do 2 athletes per bracket. But because this is the first GAMA International Youth Tournament, and because Youth Worlds was technically canceled, we just opened it up and we're allowing anyone to be able to register. That way we can get the most kids that can taste international competition. So we're not actually going to count points per teams this year because it's not going to be fair. A lot of people can't get to the U.S. currently. Obviously, some of the Russian kids, and I know Ukraine is coming with a good crew, but a lot of the other teams still can't get into the U.S. because of visa issues and political issues within their own countries, and COVID still rampant in a lot of parts of the world. So technically, this is just going to be an open competition. We did open the door for anyone to be able to register within the U.S. or globally. So this technically won't be situated by points per national team.
Jeff, what you got?
Man, I just want to know, we talked about nationals, we talked about worlds, but there's also, a bigger end game here when it comes to GAMA. Can you talk to everybody about the steps that are being taken to try to get this thing recognized internationally in the Olympics?
That's actually the goal. The goal is Olympic recognition for the sport of MMA. I've personally been working on it now for 8 years. And we're getting closer every time. We've got a lot of work to do. It's going to take several more years to get there, but I fully believe, and I know we will receive Olympic recognition for the sport of MMA. So the way that works is we have to have an international federation that achieves Olympic recognition, and then we have all the national federations that are recognized from that international side. So we already have recognition as the sole federation for U.S. MMA under GAMA, which is the international federation. So we're it. So that's how it stands. And as soon as GAMA internationally figures that out and we finally can get IOC recognition, then we'll go from there. Our application is currently under review. There's several steps. I don't know if we want to go into all that here, but first thing is we got to get recognized. We've got to have our world anti-doping policies and signatory, and that's well underway. We paid a lot to have that happen, and we expect to have that by 2023. And then the next steps is getting recognized in some form or fashion from the IOC, which is also in the works. And we won't talk about all the details, but there's a lot that goes into it.
It's awesome, man. Like I said, you got to imagine. I mean, I know how the country gets together and supports, their home countries when it comes to the Olympics. I just can't even fathom and imagine, thinking back through the years, the kind of matchups we would have seen. Because when it comes to international matchups in Olympics, you're not going to be bound by promotion. This fighter can't fight this fighter because I fight for this promotion and I fight for this promotion. If you have signed up and to compete and been accepted as part of your national team, we would get to see matchups that otherwise you might not ever see.
That's right. The beauty of it is you hit on it a little bit, but look at where these kids are going to be at 18. If you were to look at any other Olympic sport, could you start training that sport at the age of 18 and ever become elite? You can't. If you started skiing at 18, you're not going to the Olympics. You're never going to be that elite. You may be good, but you're never going to be elite. Same thing with wrestling. Predominantly, if you didn't start wrestling as a kid, the chance of you making the Olympics or just as a high-level elite wrestler, D1, is almost null and void. So same thing with MMA. We're substantially behind the rest of the world. Globally, our adults have been training MMA longer than anyone, but they're starting their kids out way before us. And the USA is actually really far behind. We have more kids competing, but look at Ukraine and Russia and a lot of these European nations and even Australia. They've got great youth development leagues, and we're starting to fall behind. So we really got to pick that up. We lack national funding. We don't have that because in the USA we can't be recognized from the U.S. Olympic Committee until it's an international Olympic sport. Unlike most other countries, almost all other countries, they can actually protect the sport as a developing Olympic sport if they choose to do so. And that's what's happened in many of these other countries. They've already recognized MMA as a developing Olympic sport. So a lot of these national teams coming are fully funded. These kids have nice uniforms, their travel's paid for, they're training full time. They're able to do these things that we can't do. So it really takes everybody as a group effort to come together to try to make this whole in the USA and to help us not fall too far behind.
So if I'm a youth or a parent of a youth and I'm interested in getting my kid involved in this tournament, walk us through what they can expect. How many bouts would one particularly need to win over the course of this weekend, to come out victorious? Are the you mentioned the weigh-ins will be the day before on the 3rd. Is this a one-time weigh-in, or is it like similar events where the athletes have to make the weight each day. What are some of those little caveats that sometimes go unnoticed that parents or youth out there would want to know?
Sure. Well, first things first, all the parents and coaches should know that this is safe. We've actually done medical studies, and several groups have done medical studies to realize that this is safer than a lot of even non-contact youth sports that are in high school, like football and basketball and soccer. Our injury rate and CT compatibility is so much less than all these other sports that are being conducted. So just know this is not MMA that you see on TV with blood and elbows and this type of thing. This is a very safe developmental level platform. So that's first thing to know. The parents who are doing it love it. The kids who are doing it have loved it. We've never had a single major injury ever, and we've done it now just youth for 3+ years under our organization. I've personally done it for much longer with other organizations, and there was no major injuries there either. So this is safe. That's the first thing to know. As far as the format of this specific world tournament, yeah, it'll be done over multiple days. So Thursday night will be registration and weigh-ins. You'll come in and register, make sure that you're finally there so we can bracket you finally. Make sure that you're on weight. Kids, obviously, if they register several months in advance, they grow quickly. So they could have put on a lot of weight and size in that 3 months. So we make sure that everyone's properly bracketed and weighed in. And then they'll start competition the next day. I would expect it's single elimination. We don't have the time and availability to do multiple eliminations. So it's single elimination. If you lose, you're out. And it depends how many people are in your bracket, how many days you'll advance. The fights will be Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Sunday will be finals. We're in discussion to mix that up a little bit, depending on how many people register. We may do a couple finals earlier to get everyone out of their Sunday earlier, but that's in discussion. But if you win, you advance. You'll have no more than 2 fights in a day. That'll be max. No more than 5 fights total in the weekend and the tournament. And we'll cut the bracket off when if it hits that level. I don't expect it to on this first show, but we will cut it off if a specific bracket hits 32 athletes. So that's it. Single elimination. If you win, you advance. And you'll weigh in. You won't have to weigh in on Friday because Thursday's weigh-in will cover that. But you will, if you do advance through Friday, you will have to weigh back in Saturday morning, and you'll have to weigh back in Sunday morning. Scratch weight. You got to be on weight. We don't allow weight cutting.
So the competitors will weigh the day before their first round, but then the day
Right.
of the following rounds. So how are the brackets? Is there a seeding? If the competitor has competed already in maybe a lead up tournament and done well, does that get them a better seed, or is it just a blind draw and everybody's kind of equal footing there?
It'll be a blind bracket. Once everyone's registered in our computer system, it just it has a random shuffle, and we random shuffle it. So if you draw someone that's elite, that's just the luck of the draw. Until we have more kids competing, and we can separate these brackets and maybe a more novice and advanced level. But as it stands, we're gonna have some kids that are brand new. Their coaches want to get them in and get them the experience, and it's all about getting your rounds in and making yourself a better martial artist. So I'm super happy to have everybody at all levels compete. They will have a good, safe opportunity. But as it stands, it'll be random draw. So whoever you draw is just the way it is.
So, Jeff, we're going to be working to coordinate a stream for this. It'll be on spectationsports.com all 3 days of the competition. We'll have multiple cameras set up for the multiple fighting cages that'll take place on. This is going to be one of the more difficult ones to try to wrangle, I think, as far as the procession of things go, but it's at the same time I'm excited because so many new eyes should be getting to see this. Kids that are coming from all over, parents, grandparents, that kind of thing. Tuning in to see how their little one performs. We've had at this point, we've kind of made it a point to have like multiple youth MMA bouts on our last several shows. So we've had quite a few kids coming through the Aries ranks that we're hopeful to see out there. This happening in Nashville. That's Jeff's neck of the woods. Tell us about the venue there, Justin. Is where this is going to go down, and also how people can register if they want to jump in the mix.
Yeah, of course. So the way the venue is going to be set up, the venue is going to be the Millennium Maxwell House Resort Hotel there in Nashville. Beautiful place. They were gracious enough to allow us their event center. They're setting it all up for us, so we really appreciate it. They've been super, super great to work with, so we're thankful. It'll have 4 mats set up, so we don't bring cages in for youth MMA just because of the cost and expense. So in doing this currently, it may change later, but our adults, anyways, we'll talk about that another time. But we're going to bring in 4 rings. It'll be mat rings set up in a square, and they'll be in the corner of the venue, and it'll be rings 1, 2, 3, and 4. You'll be assigned to a ring for your bout, and it'll go from there. But if you want to register, check out gammausa.org. And you can find the events on there, and you can click any of our events, whether they're local small events or this Youth International Championship, and it has all the information on there. You can also download the tournament handbook, and it has an exact breakdown on that same tab. It'll have an exact breakdown of all the days and the times where you got to be and what you got to do and what you have to provide versus what we provide and accommodations, food. It's got all the information in there for what coaches need and what athletes need. Before you write us, just make sure you read through that, because probably 99% of all your questions will be answered right within that handbook.
I know your pain there. I send out an itinerary for every event, and it seems like they never read the itinerary. So check out the handbook,
Right.
guys. If you're a competitor and you're looking to get into this thing, what are the parameters as far as time? Is there a deadline? You got to be signed out by a certain date, or are you taking day of or day before? I guess it would be registrations.
October 27th is a cutoff for registrations. And the reason why that's a hard cutoff is because we have to provide gear for everybody. If you notice, everyone's going to wear uniforms, essentially. The same thing that our adults have internationally that are competing around the world. I don't know if you guys have seen some of our adult shows, but we have an adult international worlds as well, in partnership with One Championship. But we've been to Amsterdam, we've gone to Singapore, we've taken our team around the world to compete. But the same thing, our youth will be wearing the uniforms. It'll be Aguera is our sponsor that makes the gear. They'll be provided gloves, shin guards, rash guard, and shorts. So we've got to order all that in advance and make sure we have enough for everybody. So that's why we got to have a hard cutoff date on all that stuff. But October 27th is the final day for registration. We may play with it a little with those still playing with international visas, but for most part, everyone in the USA has to be registered by October 27th.
Well, very good, man. Hey, we're excited for it, Justin. It's the Gamma Worlds, Youth Worlds, as it were, coming up, and it's November 3rd through the 6th. Nashville, Tennessee, Millennial Maxwell House is the spot. Be sure you check out one more time on that website, Justin, for registration. Is it gamma.org?
GammaUSA.org.
GammaUSA.org to register. Jeff and I'll be in the house. You can catch the stream on SpectationSports.com. We hope to see everybody out there. Justin, any parting words? Anything to wrap us up here before we sign off?
Yeah, for sure. I hope to see everyone there. I'm excited. There's going to be a lot of big stars in attendance as well that actually field teams from their own gym. Brian Battle, who's a star in the Southeast, he just made it into the UFC. He's one of the team coaches. He brings a youth team out there. We've got some kids where Dustin Poirier started down in Louisiana. Their gym's competing in youth MMA. They'll probably be up there. Wonderboy Thompson's gym will more than likely have kids there. Duke Rufus will be bringing a large team down from Wisconsin. Christian Lee and Angela Lee, the youngest world champions in the history of the sport of MMA, or actually their little brother will be competing there as well. So they'll personally all be on site. So it's just going to be a fun show and a lot more stars. We don't have to go through them all, but this is going to be a well-attended event, and it's going to be really exciting. It's going to be different for everybody who hasn't seen it. So I implore you to come out. I promise you this will be the last time it's in the U.S. for many years. So it's a huge opportunity. This is history in the making for MMA, and I hope to see everybody out there.
Check it out, November 3rd through the 6th. Gamma Youth Worlds, Nashville, Tennessee. For Jeff Hobbs, I'm Tim Lloyd. Justin Brown, thanks so much for the time. We'll see you guys in Nashville.
Appreciate it, guys.
Thanks, Justin.